Welcome to the Strong for Life podcast. I'm your host, Connor O'Shea, and I really appreciate you tuning in. If you are enjoying these episodes, I'd really appreciate you taking a moment and rating it 5 stars on Spotify or on Apple or whatever podcast platform you use. This is going to allow more people to find this information. All right, folks. So I'm super excited to share today's podcast with you all. I'm joined by my client, David Coleman, or Dr. David Coleman, and we've been working together for almost 4 months now, and David has got some exceptional results online. We did work together over 10 years ago in person, so it was a different experience, but David has got exceptional results, and it's just, I think, it'll be really valuable for a lot of you listening. So first of all, thanks for jumping on today, David. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Pleasure.
And why don't we start with a bit about your background, who you are, what you're doing day to day, what's your situation, so people can kind of get an idea more about you and your life.
Okay. I'm a psychologist and I work primarily in private practice now. My specialty, I suppose, is working with children and teenagers. In fact, as I say that, I'm thinking I really only work with teenagers these days. I've become more and more specialized perhaps in the work that I do. And I'm working as a psychologist for over 20 years. And I suppose here in Ireland, maybe I've had a little bit of, I don't know what, I've become better known in Ireland due to some work that I did on TV and radio in the past. And as a consequence, it gave me an opportunity to move out of working for the health service directly and to work in private practice, which is great because that gives me a lot of flexibility in terms of my day-to-day. And I still do various bits of media and stuff as well. So there's a nice kind of mix. It's not all just seeing clients, which I think can be tiring in its own way. But so I have a lot of flexibility, but I'm not sure that I was necessarily using it that wisely.
And how old are you, David?
So I'm 51. I will be 52. I'm moving myself on too quickly. I'm going to turn 52 this September. Yeah.
Perfect. And you've got 3 kids, right?
Yeah, 3. So our eldest is 24, and we've got a 21-year-old, and my youngest just turned 18. So I kind of keep saying to my wife, we're nearly at the gap now, So two of them have already pretty much moved on. They're both living up in Dublin, and we live down in Clare. So my youngest he's got 1 more year of secondary school to do. And then, he'll probably, knowing him and the way he talks, he'll be gone as well at that stage. So even more flexibility.
Perfect, mate. So let's maybe talk about where you were kind of at before you joined the program. So earlier, the beginning of this year, really, just paint a picture for what was going on for you.
So back when I was, I suppose, in my early 20s, when I was in college, I was really very fit. I was rowing, which I think, when I look back now at all the different sports I've done, was definitely the sport that had the highest kind of fitness levels required, and I was meeting those. So I was rowing at a pretty high level in college, and I think I used that. I kind of carried that all the way through my 20s, and then hit my 30s, and it became, I suppose, I was what's the word I'm looking for? Can't think of it. Anyway, I just got I stopped kind of pushing myself hard, and we had small kids, and so I started to put on a bit of weight. And so when I was rowing, I was about 82 kilos, and I was very, very lean, and most of that weight was muscle, and then over the years that crept up, not ever massively, so I was never hugely overweight, but it certainly crept up to kind of 90, 92, 95. And when I did get better known and was doing the TV work, I suddenly, TV is not very flattering anyway when it comes to looking at yourself, and I certainly saw, just how much, my body had changed, and didn't like it particularly. So I think that was my first push to try and do something different. So that was kind of in my late 30s, and then in my early 40s, which is probably around the time that I met you. So that was, part of what I was doing then, was trying to get myself back into better shape. Again, mostly vanity, because of the TV work, and but it was effective, and I got a lot fitter, got a lot leaner. And again, in fact, you said it on one of our calls recently. Yeah, it works so well. I just I just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And it was so true, and such that, again, as time passes, and it's harder to stay active, it's harder to keep pushing myself. And so again, my weight just crept up again, and I was just very conscious around this Christmas that I felt I had a big tummy sitting out front, and didn't like it, but wasn't really doing anything about it. I was trying. I mean, I sail. That's my current passion. So I do dinghy sailing, and I do require, a fair bit of flexibility and mobility to be able to move around the boat and stuff. And I didn't really have that in the same way, but yet kind of still thought that I was kind of, working hard at that, and maybe wasn't really working hard at it. So so I had I mean, it was just so fortuitous when you out of the blue kind of contacted me, that I just thought, actually, this is exactly what I need, because I do remember I've worked with maybe 3 or 4 different people over the years, with varying levels of success. But I do remember, when I worked with you, that definitely felt like the time that was most successful for me. So so for me, it was kind of a no-brainer then when I heard what you were up to, and where you were at with the online stuff. And and I've, I suppose, made a commitment to myself now to actually stick with it. And I think the habits that I'm developing now are probably more sustaining than, it's more holistic as well. What I'm doing now, it's not just about getting fitter. It's not just about training. It's not just about working out. There's the whole bit about, I was going to say the whole bit about food as well. I mean, food is important, but I think it's actually the lifestyle habits that are probably as important. Although it's funny, I was talking to Frank, who as well, who's only just started with working with you in the online sphere, and he was saying, like, what's the big thing, and I started mentioning one thing, and then I thought, well, it's not really just that. It's this, and it's that, and it's the other. Oh God, it's that too. So that, I think that's what it is. It's actually that it's it's touching on lots of different areas of, between the lifestyle. I'm definitely eating better, or at least eating differently, not necessarily better, but I'm eating differently. And I'm back, I'm back doing workouts, and so I feel the strength coming with that. But I'm also just recognizing that I have to just move more. I have to kind of, even though, well, actually, you can see my Mac, can you, in the background there?
Yeah, I can see it.
But so this is my office, and so I sit here, and I work from here. I do a lot of writing here. I see clients here, so I'm sitting a lot in this office, and I realize, I have to be moving more. But anyway, that's where I was.
Yeah, gotcha. So like over the last, obviously very fit as you were younger, then life happened, family, career, all these things. Then you got fit again, late 30s, early 40s, on TV, very much in the public eye. And then I guess over the last few years, things just kind of, stopped. COVID, I'm sure, didn't have any, didn't help that either. And then you decided, I reached out to David because I wanted to get him on the podcast and talk about his career and his story. And then obviously we just decided to chat about his training. So were you skeptical about anything? Because obviously it wasn't in-person coaching, it was an online program. Was there anything that you were maybe unsure of? Because there is a lot of uncertainty. It's a different platform. It's a bit different way of delivering the program. So do you want to maybe talk about that?
Yeah, so I wasn't sure how it all came together. I wasn't sure how it all worked. I suppose my experience of personal training in the past had been primarily, going down to my local gym, doing a workout with somebody there, somebody kind of, having a plan in terms of a program for the day. And so it was an hour and maybe a bit of a discussion about food as well. And I was thinking, well, how does that work, and will I be as committed to the workouts? That was about the only thing I think that I was maybe unsure about. I wouldn't say I was skeptical about anything coming into the program because, yeah, I mean, I looked up the website, your website, but I suppose the fact that I knew you and I knew, yeah, and what you're offering now is way more holistic. You offer a lot more than you did back when we first met, and I suppose that's a testament to your own experience and your own skill as well. But yeah, so I wasn't really skeptical of anything. I was just unsure how it would work and whether I would actually be as committed in the middle of a workout, if there wasn't somebody there, because that's what my experience had been in the past. But actually, it's what I found is that I'm way more I suppose responsible to myself, that. So in the past, I think I used to work hard because there was somebody there. Now I'm working hard because, well, I want to see the results and I want to see the change, and I want to feel better. And I mean, we talked before I started about my big goal. I suppose I would love to think that even though I'm in my 50s now, that I could still sail competitively. And so there are every year there's an event in Europe, a Euro Cup version of our local kind of national events in the dinghy class that I sail in, and that was my goal, was to be able to go to one of those and actually feel competitive, as opposed to just going to make up the numbers, for a bit of a kind of a holiday jaunt over to Europe. But I'd love to be able to go and feel like I'm competitive. Now that's reliant on the guy I sail with also pushing that. Oh, sorry, that's my phone, very loud. Apologies for that. Yeah, so that's dependent on him pushing himself as well. But yeah, and so having that goal, having something to really make all this worthwhile, it's no longer just vanity. It is actually about recognizing that, yeah, I need to stay healthy and fit, and I think it's about bedding the habits in as well, that they become habits, because like, I mean, I've decided to work with you for a year, but we're already 3-4 months in, and so a year is going to go very quickly, and I want to make sure that, yeah, that I don't slip back, and if I do slip back, that I don't slip back as quickly as I have done in the past, that I maintain some of the changes, that yeah, that it doesn't just become so effective that I stop doing
it. And so at what point can you think of any, I guess, anything that happened or any breakthrough that you've had over the first month or 2 months, and you're like, oh, okay, it's all clicking, it's making sense, and I'm really starting to feel benefits?
So there were a number of things. I suppose the workouts, when I started doing the workouts, they were all doable at home. That was a very significant thing for me, particularly at the time. It was just a really busy period coming up, because I do a particular piece of work in June and early July, that I'm away for. So it gets kind of frenetic in the lead up to that, trying to organize all of that and see clients. And so it's particularly busy. And so the fact that I could do the workouts at home, so the kind of the core element of the fitness bit is very manageable. It's an hour on the days that I do it. And I can get up at 6:30, 6:45, as I normally would, can be starting the workout at 7 o'clock, done by 8. That's really useful for me. So that was one factor, the fact that the workouts were I could manage them all at home. I found the workouts were not, I never went away from a workout and ended up with like pain a day later or 2 days later, where I was thinking, oh my God, that's a muscle that I've never used and now it's going to kill me. And to the point that I couldn't continue to exercise, which has happened in the past, that I've worked so hard on a particular training session that, then I end up just aching for days and don't really want to go back training, so that never happened. So the workouts themselves have been very gradual. That's been really good. I started using the app that you have to track my food. So that was really interesting just to see and to get a sense of the different kind of macro kind of carbs and proteins and whatever that I was eating, because I'd never really tracked food before. I know lots of other people seem to track their food, but I don't. And so I was taking pictures of it. So I was conscious when I was taking the pictures that, of, oh God, like that looks like a big portion, or that looks like a really big plate of food. And so that kind of stuff, just allowed me to be more aware, I would say, of my food. But yeah, then there were two other kind of big factors. So one was intermittent fasting. So coming across intermittent fasting for me has been really, important. And so I don't follow a regular intermittent fasting habit. I'm not doing kind of 16/8 fasts, 4, 5, 6 times a week, but I'll certainly do maybe 2 of them in a week, but I won't even necessarily plan to do them. It'll just be like, it feels very flexible. And then every so often I'll just do a 24-hour fast. Again, I've only done, well, I say every so often, I've done maybe 2, not maybe 2, I've done 2 over the 4 months, but it feels like I could just do a 24-hour fast because it just feels like it's, timely to do one, or it feels like it's just easy to do one because I do a lot of the cooking in the house, so it's not so easy to fast when other people are dependent on the food as well. But if there are times when I'm here on my own, that's a time when I'd probably think, oh yeah, actually I could probably just do a 24-hour fast. But that has just changed again how I feel about food. So this morning would be a really classic example where I had to drop my wife to a train. That was her texting actually to say she was safely on the train, but I had to drop her to a train this morning. So didn't bother having breakfast before I left. I did my kind of stretching, had a shower, dropped her to the train, came back, and I had about half an hour before this call. And in the past, I'd have absolutely been straight into my breakfast at that stage, like just, and hungry for it and kind of thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't eat before I left. And whereas I haven't eaten yet, I'm not overly fussed. I mean, I can feel, am I hungry? Yes, I suppose I'm hungry, but I'm not desperate to have my breakfast. And that, I suppose I've lost that fear that I can't do without food. And that's been really significant. I think I've mentioned it a couple of times, but, when I'm out sailing, particularly on days that we're competing, we might do 4 races in a kind of a 3 or 4 hour window, and that's pretty intense. That's a lot of hard work while we're racing. And so between races, I would always bring snacks like Mars bars, typically, or Snickers bars. They'd be my 2. And I would always have at least 1 Snickers bar between races, feeling like I needed that fuel to kind of keep me going. And like the last 2 events since we started working doing this program, the last 2 events, I've brought out my 3 or 4 Mars bars in my buoyancy aid, and just haven't eaten them, and haven't needed to eat them, and haven't panicked about, oh my God, because the timing of it, typically the racing starts at 12. So it's, you're kind of racing through what would be a normal lunchtime, which is why I think I always felt I couldn't cope. Whereas now, I just time it better. Make sure I eat about 10:30. And then I can go till kind of 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, no bother. So yeah, that's been a big thing. And then the other big change I think that occurred was when I went away. So I was doing I do an adventure therapy, or a series of adventure therapy camps in June and July, and they're very active. So I'm out with a group of teenagers. We're living with them, so we're out every day doing various activities. But I was also doing the Steps Challenge, which in my own competitive self I took to heart, and so I upped my level of steps from maybe 500, 600 steps a day to whatever I was doing, maybe
17, 18,000. Yeah, it was massive. Yeah.
And that wasn't, that was just what was being recorded. I was also doing swimming and other stuff, on those camps, and climbing. That doesn't get recorded. Like rock climbing doesn't get recorded as steps. And as I discovered, because I was like, I can't believe that didn't get
You were the unofficial winner.
yeah, that's it. So and so that definitely because again my eating was better when I was doing all that. I wasn't snacking in the way that I probably would have been in the past, and so I think that certainly in terms of weight loss over the last while has been, I think, the big change. I think that's what led to the weight loss that occurred. But overall, it's no one thing that's been the most significant. There's a whole series of different things.
Yeah, I mean, just the points you shared, mate, are so powerful. Like, especially around I guess it's almost like more freedom in your lifestyle. Like with the intermittent fasting, it's given you more, the term is called like metabolic flexibility. So you're not like, it's 8 a.m. I need to eat, and then like you're getting cranky or whatever, and then you can't do certain. I remember you were saying the example as well, like your wife would go for walks, and you'd be like, "How have you gone for a walk without having your breakfast?" Like that's I wouldn't be able to do that. Whereas now you can, you're not going to eat until at least 10 a.m. today or 9:30. And basically you just have that freedom around it, and also you're not riding that blood sugar wave, which is a huge thing I think for people as well, because you're maybe tired or cranky, you eat, you're okay, and then like an hour later like you need something again, otherwise it affects your cognitive abilities. And then around the camp as well, because I think in previous years you were saying that this would be a lot of the food, you wouldn't be making the best decisions. You'd probably be gaining weight. Your energy would be, because it's a very intense month for you, and you're completely destroyed after it as a result of the diet and obviously how intense the work is. So it seems like the damage control is much improved as well, which is very exciting because this is early days for you, and this is just going to compound. So let's maybe talk about some of the results you've experienced so far.
So I'm, I mean, I've lost 10 kilos. That's, I suppose, the most significant thing, which was definitely a goal. So I'm back down to 82, 83 kilos. Having been, I think I was 92 when I weighed myself at the start. I've lost a lot of that tummy that was sticking out the front. Other people have noticed that I'm leaner, and my mother has got to the point of saying, I don't think you should lose any more weight now. Which is I don't know, maybe a sign, although that's mothers. I think mothers just like to make sure that I don't know, my mum certainly was always like, oh yeah, you'll have to eat something now, will you not eat?
So,
so the few times when I call up regularly these days because my dad isn't very well, but my mum would always be offering me food, and and so she was amazed that I was like, no, I'm just not eating, I'm going to eat later, and she was like, but you haven't had lunch. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay, I'm just not having lunch today. So losing the weight has been the most significant, I guess. But I've seen it in terms of just my general mobility, flexibility, fitness. It's all returning, so I'm in the boat, and I'm feeling, like I can sail for longer, sail harder. Because again, I don't know, people maybe see sailing and they think of sitting on a yacht, and dinghy sailing is a lot more involved. So we have a boat called Norris 400, which is a particular class of boat, but it's a hiking boat, so it's one where you're sitting out over the edge, feet hooked in under tow straps, and you're using your weight to counterbalance the strength of the wind. So it's very intense when you're doing it, and so I can hike for longer, and I can I am more mobile generally, and I can feel it. And I saw a picture from the camp, and I saw my back for the first time. I was like, wow, look at my shoulders. There's muscles there now that I don't think have been evident in a while.
That's great.
And that's just from doing things like the scap push-ups and all that kind of stuff. Like even the fact that I can actually do a scapular push-up, in push-up as opposed to from my knees, and I can do 20 of those without a problem, without even all that kind of stuff. It's getting there.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. And like with the weight loss, 10 kilos is a lot, in 12, 15 weeks, we'll say maximum. how did it feel? Like, did you feel restricted? Did you feel like you were kind of, getting a bit crazy with it, or yeah, maybe explain.
No, because I wasn't focused on losing weight, even though, that was a goal. But I guess I just kind of thought, well, it will happen. And so, yeah. So I didn't weigh myself for the kind of over the 5 weeks that I was away in doing the camps. I didn't weigh myself. And so, and then I kind of got back, and I was tired. I was very tired when I came back because of the intensity of the weeks. But and so I didn't do much for about a week, and then I thought, oh God, I haven't weighed myself. And so it was like 6 or 7 weeks since I'd weighed myself. And prior to that, I'd gotten down to so I was down to about 89 kilos, and thinking, oh well, that's good now, 4 kilos in, and so it was 4 kilos over maybe 8 weeks at that stage. And I was thinking, that's good, because that feels, again, sustainable. There hasn't been any, I've not lost anything. Sorry, excuse me, that sounds, obviously I've lost the weight, but you're right, I haven't felt restricted. I haven't felt like there's been nothing punitive about losing that weight. But then when I came back, yeah, and so I was down to, I was like 82 kilos, like, oh my God, wow, but I should have seen it myself, because I was wearing clothes, I was wearing shirts that before, the buttons were slightly strained on them, now they're not. So it's lovely. Like, it's just really nice to be able to wear a lot of nice clothes again, because I have a lot of nice clothes. I have a lot of nice clothes from when I was younger. That I still have, and so yeah, so I'm wearing shirts particularly. I just noticed they sit better. They it's just, and it's a really nice feeling then, just for myself. I mean, I have had a few compliments from other people, but I can take that or leave it. That's not the big thing. It's I'm just really enjoying
yeah
but no, it hasn't felt punitive or harsh or restrictive, or it's just because everything about it feels like about the program, it's gradual. It's, as you say, it's something compounding on something else. I noticed I was doing the single leg RDLs the other day, and so I had been doing bird dog as my that was the part, and then the dowel hinge, and I was in the middle of the RDL, single RDL, and I thought, this is exactly the two movements that I've been doing prior.
Yes.
I suddenly thought, oh my God, how have I not been seeing this?
That's so good. I'm delighted. That's great, mate. Yeah, it just makes sense. Like, and your body is like, I understand.
Gotcha. Yeah, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
But the whole thing has been like that. It's, I remember you saying at the start, the first couple of weeks, like, just, it's going to seem overwhelming. Don't worry. And I was saying the same thing to Frank. I was saying, look, just don't even think about these things. Do whatever bits take your fancy now. Definitely try and get your morning and your evening routine. Get those two things nailed. Everything else is going to start to fall into place. And yeah, you've loads of time. I mean, I think he signed up for 6 months as well. So, like, it's anyway. Yeah, it's about not panicking, I think, and just recognizing, yes, it will all come together as long as you, well, I mean, you obviously I have to keep investing in it and investing the time and the energy, but that's kind of, it feels, again, straightforward, easy to do,
Yeah. Just on that point as well, for people, like, there's, just so people understand, like, there's the bird dog and the hinge and the single leg RDL. That's what David was talking about. So, like, the hinge pattern and the bird dog, they're kind of like deconstructed parts of a single leg RDL. So there's components of both of them that make sense and make you execute the single leg RDL easier. So that's just what we're kind of saying there. Let's just say there's a guy listening, he's in his 40s, he's in his 50s. He might have been fit before, but like, whatever, like, COVID happened, work, family, and he's just maybe in a bit of a position where he can see the trajectory and it's not going where he wants it to go. Can you give him any advice from your experience, maybe on things that maybe he can, maybe some nuggets that he can apply from just listening to this podcast?
Yeah, so I guess we were even talking about it, I think, on the call yesterday, the idea of never missing twice. And it is so easy to get into a habit of, starting going, okay, I'm going to do something, and I'd have done that, and I'd have said, oh, I'm going to eat better. I'm not going to eat chocolate now, or I'm just, my big thing would be to have a cup of tea in the evening, and typically I'd have had a snack with that, some kind of sweet snack, so biscuits or cake if it was there, or whatever, chocolate. And so I'd gone through weeks where I wouldn't have that, but then I'd be missing it, I'd be cranky, and and then I'd have something, and then I think, oh, yeah, I feel bad now. But the feeling bad just led me to, kind of fall back into my old habit. And so definitely, what anybody listening, wants to do, I think, is just, forgive themselves for, making a mistake with something, and just move on and keep going, and keep having another go at making the plan, and so sticking with a plan is definitely easier when you feel that there's a bit of communal support there. And despite the whole online nature of the program, there actually does feel like that there's a real community, through the Facebook, and I think that's really good. I see people commenting, I see other people putting up videos of themselves doing workouts, and I think some of the things, I think, oh my God, how can they even do that? Other times I think, yeah, gosh, I can remember that, and how awkward it feels to put up a video that everybody can see, but yet the feedback that I get from the videos I put up, the feedback I can see about other people, it all builds. And so, yeah, you get the sense that there's a lot of people in it together, and I think that helps. So, I mean, I'd be absolutely recommending to somebody, if they're in their 40s or 50s, this is the way to go, because this is not a group of 20 somethings out there, pumping a lot of iron and looking really ripped. This is about us ordinary people, making just healthy changes and sticking with them. And there's a real sense of like, I can hear the commitment from other people, on the calls, and how they're working at this or they're working at that, and everybody's working at something different typically. And that's great, but you get to hear then about other people's successes as well. So it is doable. Like, it's very doable.
Yeah, I think also just what you said there about the community component is really powerful. Even I think it was last week or the week before, you and I think maybe Rory, you gave, someone asked a question, and you guys could answer the question better than me for the person's answer, so I think that's super powerful as well. And then obviously don't miss twice is a fantastic mantra. So I think that's something really actionable that someone can like just apply from listening to this right away. So last question, David, like you kind of touched on maybe who would be a good fit for the program. Do you want to maybe touch on who maybe mightn't be the best option for them to the online program, and who you think would be a good fit, if you want to be more specific?
Yeah, I don't know. I suppose it's about somebody who's interested in lifestyle change, rather than just a single goal of, oh, I want to get ripped, or I want to be super fit, or I want to lose 30 kilos, or I mean, people, I think, who have a single goal will probably do well as well, but I think you'll do better if you actually just want to get into a healthier whole routine, that you want this to be something holistic, because it really does touch on all the important things. Like, so there's definitely your mobility, flexibility, food, fitness, strength, but also the habits of not getting yourself into those positions through your lifestyle where you rely on sugar, or you rely on short hits of something unhealthy to kind of get you through the day. And so I would say, I mean, I don't know, like, I think, to be honest, in terms of the community aspect, I'd like to think that it's still going to be a lot of, us 40s and 50 somethings, because I think that just, I don't have to look at somebody in their 20s but it's not, it's not a high intensity program, it really isn't. And so I think it's not going to suit somebody who wants to feel like they're, that they're powering through something, or that they're, that they're there for the burn,
Yeah.
It's definitely not that. But I think, for somebody who's in their middle age, who just can see, as you say, that the future doesn't look like it's going to be very healthy unless they do something different. This is definitely an opportunity to do something different. And yet it's so you can absolutely build it into your regular day. It's not so different that it's impossible. It's just different, and in a way that it's intriguing at times, and it's like, oh yeah, and those little insights, even like that, about how two different exercises actually compound together to give me better form in the third exercise. It's like, oh, okay, so there's a plan to everything. None of what I'm doing is just for the sake of doing it, that it's all building. That's what I get a sense of. It's building towards something.
Yeah.
David 2.0.
Yeah, there we go. So so yeah, I guess I just really appreciate you sharing your story so far, because like it's super powerful. You've already, I think we actually talked about you getting that kind of 10 to 12 kilos was the 12-month goal, and you've already done that now. So like we're kind of going to be focusing more on just having that kind of building more muscle mass, and obviously maintaining it as well. So yeah, I just really appreciate you taking the time, and it's just been great to reconnect and work with you again. And it's going to be a very exciting, 8 months ahead of you as well.
Yeah, great. And thank you. Yeah, I'm really enjoying the program.
Awesome.